Ayyankali. Mahatma Ayyankali, who was born in 1863 and who died in the year 1941. The revolutionary leader of the Dalits of Kerala was a major figure in Kerala Renaissance. Dalits were denied almost all fundamental rights for centuries. Ayyankali questioned the practices and customs and proved that even a single man could resist the society at large and make a difference. His Villuvandi Yatra in 1893 is one of the best examples for this. Ayyankali was inspired by the fellow reformists like Ayyavu Swamigal and Sri Narayana Guru. When he enrolled the Dalit student Panchami in the school at Urutambalam, the upper caste Hindus set the school on fire. Ayyankali then declared the first ever strike of agricultural laborers. The government intervened and removed the school restrictions. Similarly, his protest against wearing stone ornaments of Dalit women too became successful. In 1912, he was nominated to be a member of Srimulam Praja Sabha and fought for the rights of Dalits. This extract, taken from Ayyankali, a Dalit leader of organic protest, co-authored by Nizar and Meena Kandasamy, talks about the establishment of Sadhu Jana Paripalana Sangam SJPS. Education, the powerful resource, was denied to Adiyalar slave castes of Kerala even in colonial period. The upper caste and intermediary caste groups not only utilized the facility of modern education but were more conscious of the need to guard it from outside intervention, especially from the Dalits. As far as the Dalits were concerned, they possessed knowledge only about the various techniques and methods of agricultural productions. So they can't enter into the public sphere. Ayyankali was more concerned about the economic development of the Dalits rather than any kind of spiritual upliftment. So he decided to take from the teachings of Thaikata Ayyavu Swamigal only equality and universal brotherhood. Moreover, he understood that neither Christianity nor Brahmanishta Sabha was going to solve all the problems faced by Dalits. So, he decided to create a platform for the Dalits. In 1907, the Sadhu Jana Paripalana Sangam SJPS was formed under his leadership that had similarities with the name, policies and programs of SNDP, Sri Narayana Dharma Paripalana Sangam. It unified all the depressed servile people, slave castes. Apart from fighting against inequality and social discrimination, it brought solidarity among the depressed castes and unified them under the title of Sadhu Janam. No, not a single letter is seen by Poykayil Appachan. Poykayil Appachan, who is also called Kumara Gurudevan, was born in the year 1879 and died in 1939. A revolutionary Dalit leader and a social reformer, was born in Iraviveru near Tiruvalla. He converted to Christianity and became a preacher. But he realized that even after conversion, Dalits continued to be marginalized and discriminated against by church. He was also a member of SJPS of Ayyan. He founded Pratyaksha Raksha Daiva Sabha (PRDS) in 1909, where he himself was the god. He opened the first English medium school for Dalit community and established spinning mills for the betterment of Dalit people. He was nominated to Sri Moolam Prajasabha in 1921 and in 1931 and argued for legislative measures in favor of Dalit people. He preached his new philosophy that instead of being something that comes after death, salvation should be visible here and now. He declared that both Hinduism and Christianity would fail the cause of the Dalits. He was an ardent writer. His poems speak of injustices and brutalities faced by the downtrodden and wretched. No, not a single letter is seen was recited at the famous Raksha Nirnaya Yogam held in Kulattur in 1910. It speaks about the criminal silence of history on its being asked to speak about the history of the people of his race. The downtrodden people don't find room in the history books, and so he says that it is his duty to speak about his people. So many histories are seen on many races, but not a single letter is seen on the race of the speaker. It was pity that there was no one on this earth to write the history of the downtrodden in the olden days. So the poet Poykayil Appachan mentions the story of his people who lived in Kerala since the ancient times and how they became demons. He says that he has no shame to say the faults of his caste, though his men blame him as a cursed one. He concludes the poem by asking two questions. How is it possible that all blame the marginalized till the end of the earth? How can God, who shaped everything, allow these kinds of injustice to happen on earth? In this way, Poykayil Appachan talks about the silence of everyone and the injustice done to the Dalits. Thus, along with the other Renaissance leaders like Sri Narayana Guru, Ayyangali, Chavarayachan, and Vakkam Moulavi, Poykayil Appachan too gets a place among the great men who shaped Kerala modernity by his words and deeds. Vakkam Moulavi, my grandfather, the rebel, by Sabin Iqbal. Vakkam Abdul Qadir Moulavi, who was born in 1873 and who died in 1932, the father of Islamic Renaissance in Kerala, was an author, social reformer, religious scholar, freedom fighter, and founder and publisher of the vernacular newspaper Swadeshabhimani. As he was born in a prominent and affluent family of traders, he imported an automatic flatbed printing press directly from England for Swadeshabhimani, the first newspaper in Kerala. As Moulavi had strong faith in the critical role of the media in social reformation and in achieving and protecting civil rights and liberty, he had given full freedom to K. Ramakrishna Pilla, the editor of Swadeshabhimani. His severe criticism made the British authorities confiscate the press in 1910. Sabin Iqbal, Moulavi's grandson and a well-known novelist and journalist, talks about Moulavi, who has been sidetracked by Kerala history in this autobiographical essay. Sabin quotes Ngugi wa Thiong'o's words: "Omission is an effective tool to alter the narrative," and says, when the editor is known with the historic newspaper Swadeshabhimani by its title, the textbooks has an unknown Moulavi in it to show the owner, who is known as the father of Muslim socio-religious reform movement in Kerala. Vakkam Moulavi effectively used communication networks to promote his ideas of patriotism, modern education, and religious reform. Apart from Swadeshabhimani, he used his journals Muslim, Deepika, and Al-Islam to motivate Muslims to pursue modern education and to bring them to the forefront of the nationalist movement. According to M.A. Shakur, London correspondent of Pakistan Times, Moulavi Abdul Qadir did not accept the puritanical excesses, petty intolerance, and the violent methods of enforcement often associated with Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab and his movement. Moulavi was a man with beautiful mind, with dreams of a secular and united India, where people of different faiths lived in harmony. He encouraged students to study science and carried articles on photography and films. Influenced by the reformers of earlier centuries like Muhammad Abdul and Muhammad Rashid Rida, Moulavi launched his own call for return to genuine Islam that included the reinterpretation of Quran and Tawhid unity in the light of modern needs. Apart from this, Moulavi Abdul Qadir had great faith in Ramakrishna Pillai's integrity, patriotism, and political ideals. That was why he gave full freedom to his editor Ramakrishna Pillai. When the press of Swadeshabhimani was confiscated and the editor was arrested, he didn't want to apologize and get back the press without the editor. Actually, that brought him a huge financial loss. As he was not a businessman, he wanted to achieve only public welfare and prosperity through his newspapers. Jose Abraham, who wrote Islamic Reform and Colonial Discourse on Modern India, is of the opinion that it is unfortunate that Vakkam Moulavi, the founder of the Swadeshabhimani, has not been given his due place and recognition in the journalistic history of Kerala. When Ramakrishna Pilla, editor of Swadeshabhimani, remains a hero today. As Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie says, the journalistic history of Kerala should have the power to tell the definite story of Vakkam Moulavi instead of just telling the story of one unknown Moulavi. Kuttipuram Bridge, Edasseri. Edasseri Govindan Nair, who was born in 1906 and who died in 1974, is one of the major poets of Malayalam literature. He was a recipient of Sahitya Academy Award for Poetry. Kuttipuram Bridge is a translated one where the poet shares his feelings of surprise, happiness, and anxiety on his walking over the bridge after its construction in 1953. The 11-span bridge on National Highway in Kuttipuram needed 23 lakhs and 58 months to get completed. The poet stood proudly on the bridge and gazed upon the dwindling Perar, that is Nila River. Though he was 47 years old then, he remembered playing Putamgol. He's taking a dip in the cool waves before prayer and watching kingfishers, cuckoos, and herons up above the river. During heavy rains, the arrogant and boisterous river used to burst the banks. But then the river was crawling to flow below the bridge. On seeing it, the poet chuckled and thought about the change in the river's attitude. Though he was delightfully considering the victory of mankind, an unknown feeling of agony haunted his conscience. He began to recollect the fading picture of his village life. The sweet and healthy village was actually bidding the final farewell. The vast paddy fields, the houses flanked by fruit bearing trees and hill valleys are slowly moving away. The temple festivities with oil lamps, farmers' songs that fill the day, and the chills in the dead of light are all also disappearing and allow other things to come to light. Granite, cement, steel, tire, and petrol have started their reign. Walls are rising everywhere. The noises made by them and their movements quicken everywhere. People move away from their native places. All familiar faces are disappearing. Strangers become neighbors. So, strangers need to be loved, and all the loving and lovable friends have become outsiders. As the bridge passes by the side of the temple of Mallur, the Lord Shiva of Mallur has become a street deity. The Antimahakalan hill, which is standing high up and serene, would now spin like a top spun by an egotist machine child. Everything is getting changed. Even the laughter and tears have become machine like. Here the poet disappointedly asks the Perar river whether the river will also accept the changes and get changed into a canal of grief carrying sewage. Thus, the poet talks more about the change that is unfortunately inevitable, doing more harm than good. That is why he says, on standing on the bridge, an unknown feeling that streams inside haunts my conscience with agony. Daughter of Humanity by Lalithambika Antharjanam. Lalithambika Antharjanam, who was born in 1909, who died in 1987, the best known novelist and social reformer, used her writings as a powerful weapon to expose the injustices existing in society. She was enriched Malayalam literature with 9 volumes of short stories, 6 collections of poems, 2 books for children, and a novel, Agnisakshi, in 1976 that won the Sahitya Academy Award. Some of her major themes are the plights of Antharjanams, the freedom struggle, and the dilemmas of a woman writer. Daughter of Humanity, Manushya was written after the communist governments enacting the land reforms in 1959 that put an end to the Janmi system in Kerala. Here, she portrays the miserable condition of a woman in the Nambudiri households who visits a minister with a small prayer. The story begins with the entering of the minister Govindan after a long and exhausting journey. Though he has a headache, he talks to all who have waited for him. At last, a lady enters with a 7-year-old boy as if she were a woman from the 18th century storybook. When she says, I think you haven't recognized me, Govindanguti, he notices a familiar scar on her forehead. It is Kunyathol Amma, who used to mix curd and mango pickle with rice and give him on his bringing flowers for her prayers every day. After the death of his father, his mother Lakshmikuti suffered a lot to bring him up. There was Kunyathol Amma to help them with words and deeds. After the death of his mother, the only refuge was Kunyathol Amma, who often gave him money and sweets from the offerings to the deity. Giving food and helping others were Kunyathol's necessary part of her everyday life. Every evening, someone from the illam would come to the gate of the illam and ask if there is anyone who needed food. Among the many, Govindan was one there to get food when he was a boy. When Govindan finished his school and left the village, he did not think it necessary to say goodbye to Kunyathol. Soon he became a success on public platforms and a valuable member of many groups. When years passed, he began to forget his old village. On his way to a function, he passed the village once. Then he came to know that the illam was sold to clear the debt incurred for the funeral ceremonies of the senior Nambudiri. The older son was stricken with arthritis. The younger one left the house after joining in a political party. An old tenant who felt sorry for Kunyathol had arranged for her to move with her invalid son and his children to a small house that had once been part of their property. Though he thought to meet Kunyathol, he couldn't meet her then. Kunyathol, who stands before him, wants Govindanguti's help to send the child to school, and if that happens, he would at least get a meal at noon. Hearing this, Govindagutti feels sorry and tears run down his face. Annapurneshwari herself begs for an afternoon meal for her grandson. Though he was one among the people who destroyed her illam on their fighting for the cause of the starving, she hasn't found fault with them. Instead, she envelops him with blessings. So he says that though he is not sure of doing what she needs him to do, he begs her to be a mother to motherless Govindagutti. Then he asks his secretary to take his mother Kunyathol to the car and inform that as he has a son's duties to attend his mother, he can't attend that day's meeting. Thus, the story ends with a startling moment of the realization of the daughter of humanity by Govindan. He decides to be the son of the helpless mother at the end. Christian heritage. Vaikkam Muhammad Basheer. Vaikkam Muhammad Basheer, who was born in 1908 and who died in 1994, an iconic figure in Malayalam literature was born in Thalayonapparambı near Vaikkam. He received modern education in an English medium school. He was greatly interested in the national movement of Gandhi and later to the revolutionary ideas of Bhagat Singh. So he was imprisoned twice, and to escape further arrest, he traveled widely. Those travels and experiences became apt materials to his stories and novels. Thus, he became one among the realist writers who wrote about the downtrodden and the marginalized people. Apart from this, his unique style, subtle humor, profound human sympathy, specialized use of the language of the commoners, and genuine descriptions of the world where he lived made him a much venerated and widely read author. His പാത്തുമ്മയുടെ ആട്, സ്ഥലത്തെ പ്രധാന ദിവ്യൻ, ഓർമ്മയുടെ അറകൾ, and നേരും നുണയും, etc., have brought a new style and diction to Malayalam literature. His നീലവെളിച്ചം, ബാല്യകാല സഖി, മതിലുകൾ, and പ്രേമലേഖനം were adopted into feature films. Apart from numerous prestigious literary awards, Basheer was awarded Padma Shri in 1982. His story, The Christian Heritage, talks about an unexpected guest who visits Basheer's house just to see him in person. One day, on seeing a head bobbing up near the gate, Basheer invited him and came to find that he was there to see Basheer. He was a Christian from Changanasheri. His name, Kuchudummi, an industrious labor, settled in Malabar for 8 or 9 years, planting coffee and black pepper. His wife was no more, blessed with 4 sons and 5 daughters. All were married and had settled with their families. He was hospitalized for a month. When he got discharged from hospital, he came straight over to see Basheer. Basheer felt proud for a Christian's visit to a Muslim. They spoke for a long time. They exchanged stories from Changanasheri, Thalayolapparambı, and Vaikkam. Basheer's wife Fabi brought tea. They drank and talked about the market value of rubber, black pepper, and coffee. It became dark. Kochudummi seemed to have no plans of leaving. Talks continued even after supper. Basheer asked why he didn't stay there. Kochudummi gave a big yes. Fabi spread out a mat in the reading room. Christian Heritage in India by Sri John Ochandruth served as his pillow. Basheer could hear him snoring shortly after. However, the next day, Tommy left after breakfast. When Basheer gave him 10 rupees as wayfare, he didn't refuse. Basheer thought that it was wonderful to treat Tommy in that way. A relative of Basheer's son-in-law came there after 2 weeks. Christian Heritage was there to serve again as a pillow. When Fabi opened the book, 200 rupees notes fell from it. It must be kept there by Tommy, a rugged peasant and an avid reader of Basheer. Here, Through this story, Basheer questions our society's deep rooted prejudices against commoners like farmers,